The electric semi-truck revolution is finally gaining momentum. We've seen companies by the names of UPS, PepsiCo, Daimler, and Walmart all invest in their very first battery electric trucks over the past few months. This is being driven by rapid incentives, cost reductions, and new players coming onto the market with innovative product offerings, which is going to make a massive benefit and dent in the global carbon reduction race. As high the benefits are of electric semi-trucks, there still seems to be barriers for most fleet operators and owner-operators to invest in these extremely costly trucks. Obviously, they provide low noise, low vibration, no gear shifts, and extremely low pollution to its communities, but the low reliability, lack of infrastructure is bottlenecking many companies completely out of this space. But it turns out the US government is smarter than we thought, and they've already figured out a way to tackle these short-term headwinds. And that is exactly what I want to discuss in this video. But as usual guys, before we get into it, make sure to drop me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. So what exactly is that plan? Well, it has all to do with the Inflation Reduction Act, which actually has specific incentives, rebates, and grants for fleets to adopt zero emissions vehicles. Look, there's no doubt that EV semi-trucks are going to take a lot of effort, energy, and money to get integrated into daily systems and processes for most companies. This is an intensive process that requires change from an infrastructure and logistics sides for most fleet operators. What that means is companies are going to have to increase their budgets towards EV fleets, increase training for such vehicles, and also establish dealer networks so that they can service the right parts at the right time if something happens to go wrong. Because obviously right now most fleets have established service and maintenance deals with local garages that specialize in diesel and natural gas powertrains. An electric powertrain, on the other hand, is more simple, but it is much more complicated to fix and also results in probably more downtime. And plus, charging a 700 kilowatt hour battery is no easy feat. Not only do you need to plug these trucks in overnight in most cases, because charging during the day would just not be cost effective, but you also need to site and permit high power chargers north of 100 to 200 kilowatts to be able to effectively charge these trucks. And those chargers obviously take quite a long time to be permitted through the state, government, and local offices, and then also through your utility. As a matter of fact, Tesla's own website shows us the construction and permit statuses of some of their newly coming online supercharger stations. On the very top, we have some of the newest ones that have come online, and as you can see, the maximum amount of days it takes for some of these superchargers to get permitted just for construction to start can range anywhere from 600 to 1200 days on average. And that is obviously because connecting anything to the electric grid, which is the biggest machine on earth, takes a very rigorous and critical compliance permitting and inspection process to make sure there are no outages or excessive faults that could damage property. Pacific Gas and Electric, for example, in California, needed some of its substations on its overloaded PG&E distribution grids to be upgraded, 88 to be exact, which obviously is excessive cost for utilities, which tends to get passed on to consumers and into longer and lengthier permitting times. And for those of you wondering why this isn't a problem with hydrogen or gasoline diesel vehicles, well, because those stations that refuel those trucks are centralized and owned and operated by third-party conglomerates. Shell, ExxonMobil, and BP are the only main companies operating gas stations within the US. But that's obviously not the same situation for electric charging infrastructure, which is where companies have to invest themselves into their own personalized stations. There is no centralized megawatt charging station anywhere in the US where a semi-truck can just constantly pull in and top up to 100%. Not to mention, it would take a couple of hours for these semi-trucks to charge to a full extent, meaning the return on investment on such a distributed station would be excessively low. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not going to be a problem for companies like PepsiCo that are flourished with cash. These companies have ESG mandates and they have investors they have to impress, so they're going to go through any hurdles they need to make sure they're putting their best foot forward. But for smaller fleet operators and small businesses, this is going to be an extremely important challenge that the government is going to need to step into to help. As you can see, the Inflation Reduction Act announced last year provides 3 key provisions aimed at reducing the total cost of ownership of getting plug-in electric vehicles. First of all, for any vehicle with a gross vehicle weight of more than 14,000 pounds, you get an instant $40,000 credit applicable directly under the Section 13401. And the best part is this is applicable to not only battery electric, but also fuel cell electric vehicles, which obviously will perform much better for the longer haul applications. And by far the best part is that for any companies that are investing in their own vehicle to grid or level 1, level 2, or level 3 charging infrastructure, they're eligible for an up to 30% tax credit. And because the people who wrote this bill were relatively smart, they included not only battery electric solutions, but also hydrogen refueling infrastructure based on their alternative fuel refueling property term. However, as good as these incentives do sound, it is still going to take at least a couple of years for electric trucks to start hitting the road at a faster pace than diesel or natural gas trucks. And a big reason for that is obviously the higher upfront cost, which automatically signals out a lot of prospective customers. At the end of the day, batteries do cost more than an internal combustion engine on a per kilowatt basis. And in the trucking industry, power and torque are much more important than anything else. Even when it comes to range, most trucks perform short haul to medium haul applications on the Class 8 sector, which means the upfront cost is going to play an even bigger role in most fleet operators to purchase these vehicles. This is a reason why, for example, a listing of the Nikola Tre in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania has been on the market for a few months now. At the end of the day, who's going to go buy an electric truck that costs 3 times as much as a diesel truck in an economic recession time when companies are cutting spending and people are getting laid off? Instead, what's truly going to result in explosive growth for this sector is incentives, adoption, and more competition. Companies like Nikola Motors, Freightliner, and Tesla are in this space to reduce costs for the end consumer. And just like it happened for the electric vehicle business for consumers, it's going to happen for the trucking space. As an investor, I think this is one of the most interesting and lucrative opportunities in the entire decarbonization race. Not only because of the sheer percentage of carbon emissions emitted by semi-trucks, but also because of just how much these vehicles matter to the global economy. Unlike consumers, when fleets and businesses buy trucks, they tend to buy them with the same OEM that they've previously bought them from. They also tend to buy them in contracts at the end of the year and in big fleets, resulting in some big revenue numbers and profit numbers for the OEMs that built them. It's a big reason why Peterbilt, Daimler, and Volvo have built such a massive dominance in the Class 8 market in the US, and it also could be a reason why prospective EV makers like Tesla and Nikola could make their own over the next decade. But as usual, guys, that is just my take on the situation. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and I thank you very much for watching.